Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I wanted to talk about some Square Enix news that came out towards the end of June. Yes, June of all things. I know I'm a little bit late to this, but it does actually potentially relate to some Final Fantasy XVI rumors that have been circulating over the past couple of months. I want to talk about both of these things as of course we're only in August so far. There is still quite a few events that will be happening throughout the remainder of this year, where of course more game announcements and reveals will in fact be happening. Of course, August, later on this month, we do have the opening night live, which is of course the big event for Gamescom. This is actually going to be the final event part of the Summer Games Fest, hosted by Jeff Keighley. And Jeff has actually promised that this is going to be one spectacular event full of different gaming announcements and reveals. Of course, next month is September. We do have the Tokyo Game Show, and Square Enix, you guys know they absolutely love the Tokyo Game Show, so no doubt there will be some announcements and stuff there as well. Not to also mention all sorts of other things happening throughout the rest of this year too. Now, the news that I did want to talk about is, obviously, this year has been very, very different for the entire world. I was about to say the gaming industry, but really not just the gaming industry, the entire world. COVID-19 has impacted pretty much fucking everything. And the gaming industry has taken a pretty damn big hit with, of course, the cancellation of most of the different physical gaming events that happen usually throughout the year. Namely, of course, E3. This is the major spot halfway through the year where everyone in the gaming industry collectively comes together to step forward to present exactly what they've been working on over the past year, 2 years, 3 years. Of course, this year, developers and publishers have actually had to take to different means in the sense of actually presenting what they've been working on via digital events. And Square Enix actually gave us some pretty interesting news towards the end of June. This is it right here. They said, "We would normally announce new games at E3, yes. We had planned to have a press conference as a replacement event, but we're unable to do so since assets were not complete. We'll be announcing new titles individually as timing permits. Several will debut around July to August." Now, this information came from a shareholder meeting towards the end of June, and rather than Square actually having their own digital event like some publishers are, they're just simply going to be announcing their games individually. Now, we have actually seen this already happen. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory was pretty much just dropped out of nowhere in June, as well as Nier Replicant, which happened in March. And of course, Project Athia was announced during the very first PlayStation 5 livestream. The major takeaway from this information is that Square have announced that there will be several new games revealed from them individually over the course of July to August. Now, of course, we're already in August, so what game or games were announced or revealed in July? There was actually only one, which was Balan Wonderworld. This was actually revealed during the pre-show of the Xbox event in July. Now, we are in August, so that does mean that just out of the blue, Square Enix over on their social pages could step forward to reveal some new stuff in similar fashion to that of Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. However, as I was saying before, at the end of this month, specifically on the 27th of August, we do in fact have Opening Night Live, which is the massive Gamescom event. I would say just due to how Jeff Keighley has been hyping this up, although always refrain from hyping yourself up due to other people's hype, could actually be host to that of a lot of new Square Enix announcements, considering the fact that with their information right here debuting several different new games over the course of July to August, and with July only having one game announcement, August could be the big month where a lot of the Square Enix reveals that were planned for E3 of 2020 before the whole COVID thing struck could very well be the place where they actually do so. However, they did mention in this news and information that it's all based around how timing permits. So the whole July to August thing is definitely subject to change. If they don't have these set certain things ready for display and reveal by July, or of course now August, then of course they're going to push that timing back. And I'm specifically looking at September as, of course, TGS, Square Enix are always in attendance for TGS. And definitely like to use that event as a means to reveal some new stuff. Because if you do look at like the future pipeline for Square Enix, there's really not too much going on in the ways of 2021. Of course, for this year, we do have big releases like Avengers, specifically. That's most certainly Square Enix's biggest release. And then other releases like Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory and Outriders. But yeah, not too much going on with the future pipeline. We do, of course, have like Babylon's Fall, Dying Light 2, both of which have been unfortunately delayed. I know that Babylon's Fall was meant to get further showing going around sort of this time this year, but has been delayed as more time is needed for development. Dying Light 2 was indefinitely delayed, which is sad. So maybe in the sense of those two games, we may get some updates further towards the end portion of this year. At this stage, the biggest release that is happening in the future, not 2020, that has been officially revealed and confirmed by Square via a trailer format is of course Project Aethia. We also do have Balan Wonderworld, which is meant to come out in 2021 at some stage. But as they've already said, several new games. These, I would say, were of course the games that we'd be seeing throughout 2021 and 2022. Now, this in a funny way may connect with some of the Final Fantasy XVI rumors that have in fact been circulating. Now, before I proceed, please do keep in mind these are rumors, so take everything that we're going to talk about with a grain of salt. You guys know how this works when it comes to people on different forum sites, whether it be Reset Era or of course 4chan, with different people claiming that they have sources and whatnot, saying this, saying that, claiming this, claiming that. It's always best to take this kind of stuff extremely lightly. On June 11th, shortly before the PlayStation 5 event, a Reset Era user that goes by the name of Navtra ended up posting a sort of short prediction list as to what we may see during that event. This person's prediction list read Ratchet & Clank launch title. Now, we do know that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart isn't going to be a launch title for the PlayStation 5 at this stage, considering that Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to be. It's totally possible for two Insomniac titles to be launch titles for PS5, but at this stage, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is not a launch title for PS5. But they did say Ratchet & Clank, Little Big Planet spin-off, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon 2, Spider-Man 2 teaser, Demon's Souls remake, Avengers exclusive DLC, Final Fantasy XVI, and Square Enix new IP. Now, of course, Little Big Planet spin-off, that ended up happening, that's Sackboy's Adventure. Gran Turismo 7 ended up happening, Horizon 2 ended up happening, Forbidden West. Spider-Man 2 teaser, while it's not Spider-Man 2, it is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Demon's Souls remake did end up happening. Avengers exclusive DLC, while this wasn't actually revealed during the event itself, it was recently revealed that Spider-Man would be an exclusive character for PlayStation, and the Square Enix new IP, which of course was Project Aethia. The only thing that didn't end up happening right here was Final Fantasy XVI. Now, I know you could definitely argue the fact that some of these predictions right here are pretty much to be expected, and I do know that there were rumors and stuff circulating around specifically for like a new Square Enix IP, as well as the whole Demon's Souls remake. When you do look at stuff like Ratchet & Clank, there were also different things around the industry that were pointing towards a new Ratchet & Clank, as well as stuff like Horizon 2, it was bound to happen, as well as Gran Turismo 7, bound to happen. But really, through and through, this was pretty damn bang on, dude. Now, of course, as I said, Final Fantasy XVI didn't end up happening, and recently, Navtra actually had a little bit of a follow-up towards this. In a discussion about Final Fantasy XVI within a recent forum post over on Reset Era, with people just saying, well, you know, is this happening, is it not happening? Navtra followed up by saying, "Lo, yeah, Final Fantasy XVI is real. It was supposed to get announced in June's event. It's supposedly closer than most people would think. It has some kind of PlayStation 5 exclusivity. It was vague back then, but it seems to be a full-timed exclusive now. And I have no idea why they haven't announced it yet." If it's true about the PlayStation exclusivity being that it's a timed exclusive, that honestly doesn't surprise me overly too much. We do of course know that Final Fantasy VII Remake was a timed exclusive, which will expire by next year, meaning that most likely PC as well as Xbox will be receiving the 7 Remake next year. And I know you could argue, well, you know, Final Fantasy 15 released simultaneously for, of course, PlayStation and Xbox. I don't think Square are going to be doing any other major numbered Final Fantasies going forward, being that they are timed exclusives to a certain console. Not necessarily. I mean, like, we've already seen it with the 7 Remake. While it makes sense for it to be a timed exclusive, being that the original was PlayStation only, we are living in days where companies do approach these different publishers, offering them contracts to buy them out, to be like, hey, release it first on our system, and we'll give you those fat dinosaur stacks, my boy. And if PlayStation are really, really wanting more sales towards their systems, then I can see that this is a move that would definitely bolster that. Final Fantasy is a major franchise, and it's done absolute wonders that the 7 Remake has been a timed exclusive for PlayStation 4. No doubt more sales towards the PS4 have been made due to the simple fact of 7 Remake being timed, so I could see the exact same happening for PlayStation 5 if, of course, Final Fantasy XVI is going to be strictly a PS5 only title, it is also very possible that 16 could be both PS4 and PS5, just depending on whenabouts it releases. Now, Final Fantasy XVI is something that will of course inevitably happen. However though, the thing that we do have to keep in mind is that the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, according to Nomura, is actually in full development. There are a lot of different business divisions, and it is actually said that the director of Final Fantasy XIV is apparently going to be directing Final Fantasy XVI. The interesting thing about this is there was so much of this circulating around the internet that the director of Final Fantasy XIV actually had to step out in an interview and mention that no, in fact, he is not the director of Final Fantasy XVI. The reason why a rumor was floating around that Yoshida could possibly be the director of a potential Final Fantasy XVI, and the fact that he actually felt the need to step out and, say, no, dude, like, this is not real, can you shut up, it's annoying now, is because Square Enix actually created a job listing back in 2019 that is supposedly headed by Yoshida, but not necessarily meaning that he is actually the director, pointed towards this potential thing being an actual Final Fantasy XVI project. The listing read, "We have launched a new core project following Final Fantasy XIV, and we have begun the challenge for the next generation. This project has already completed its initial development, has completed environment development, and is now moving into a full-scale, large-scale development phase." And looking at the artwork that is actually attached to this post, sort of suggests that it is a Final Fantasy of sorts. So again, while he might not actually be the director, though it is stated that it's headed by him, it seems like he is actually involved to quite a large degree. I know that a lot of people have sort of thought that Project Athia could potentially be Final Fantasy XVI, although I just highly doubt it at this point. It seems like this is definitely going to be a new venture for that of Square Enix. Do keep in mind that Square do have well over 10 different business divisions for their company. It is totally possible that at this stage they could be working on a bunch of Kingdom Hearts stuff, which in fact they are, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, as well as, of course, Final Fantasy XVI with Project Athia in the background. How this links up with the Square Enix information is they have said that several new games will be getting debuted over the course of July-August, and most likely later on this year. I was thinking that perhaps maybe Square Enix were actually planning originally to have FF16 a part of that PlayStation 5 livestream, but decided to pull it, as of course that would take the entire attention span away from their big new reveal, Project Athia, whereas all eyes would be focused on FF16. Of course, things are always subject to change with the current state of the world, so maybe they actually decided to push it back to a later date to be revealed sometime late August, or of course September, or sometime after then. This would most certainly explain the confusion that the Reset Era Navtra has shown within his most recent Reset Era post. And of course, keeping in mind from Square Enix's announcement that there are several games still yet to be revealed, new ones in fact, there has so far only been one new game announcement, which is of course Balan Wonderworld in July. I thought I'd also quickly just bring up some other rumors where people have been talking about the sort of gameplay side of Final Fantasy XVI and how it might actually have a mixture of Dark Souls-esque gameplay with the gameplay found in Final Fantasy XV, also being described as being an open world title. Now, while I'm expecting Final Fantasy XVI to continue what was sort of seen in Final Fantasy XV with the game kind of being semi-what open world, I'm expecting that. I kind of hope that the gameplay found is not sort of Dark Souls mixed in with Final Fantasy XV. What I really do hope is, I hope that the gameplay is going to be that same gameplay formula that was found in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is just the perfect amalgamation of the classic turn-based mixed in with action RPG, with being able to actually slow down the fight mid-fight, select different abilities, commands, items, be able to order your party members to also do things and also take control of them too, that really should be implemented into the mainline Final Fantasy games going forward. I definitely do believe that the mainline Final Fantasy games will stick to more of an action RPG sense rather than going back to the traditional turn-based. I think these side games are probably going to be used for exactly exactly that, but overall it just kind of garners more attention with these Final Fantasy games leaning into action RPG rather than turn-based. Of course, changed some things up. It shouldn't be one-to-one with what's found in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Both games do need to stand out in their own right, but as the core gameplay system, I really hope that Square Enix uses that for Final Fantasy going forward. Now guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Just some juicy Square Enix news, and of course a few different Final Fantasy XVI rumors. We'll have to sit tight, wait and see if this is actually going to happen. There is apparently quite a few new announcements coming from Square for the remainder of this year. Keep in mind it might not happen in August. Be sure to post your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. However guys, I'm Cynical. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.